Divine here with another shot at some office hours. Today I'm talking about making the changes. And what does that mean and how do we do that kind of thing. So I set up a loop with a kind of a Texas swing kind of thing going on there. I'm not sure whether or not the audio is coming through great. Sometimes these live streams, they have kind of dog shit for audio, but it is what it is. This is out of a G6 kind of groove. The song is called Kinfolks in Carolina, or from Carolina. Hey, how's it going? And hey, how's it going, John? And so the idea is kind of this pump, this kind of, okay, G6, then to a nice little D7 chord, B7, E minor, A7, D, augmented G. Yeah, we'll do some Tennessee Jet today. That was G7 to C. Now diminished G2, E7, A7, D7, and then 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Okay, so how do we play through something like that? A lot of chord changes. I love teaching this song because it's got kind of kitchen sink changes, right? So we've got a lot of different options here. One way to start is by playing melody, which is going to be largely out of G major pentatonic with a few, hey, Tennessee Jet on his page is insanely helpful. Oh, hey, that's true. I happen to think that's a good, that bust my arm patting myself on the back, I think that's a good lesson. But let's take a look at how we make that first change from G6, okay, that's going to be G major pentatonic. D chord, okay? Thanks for the heads up. Oh yeah, sure, that's to a fellow viewer. Thank you, Slowhand. Okay, so G6 to D7, okay? So what we're really looking for is to end on this F sharp, the third of our 5 chord, okay? So 1, 2, 3. Well, I've got kinfolks in Carolina. That's the place you'll find my family tree. So, well, I've got kinfolks in Carolina. That's the place you'll find my family tree. Okay, I got cousins by the dozens out in Charlotte. And a little bit east of East Tennessee. But there's a little lump of sugar up in Nashville that's in the sweetest southern drawl. We're gonna buy that girl a wedding ring, get us tickets on a new river train, making my closest kinfolks after all. Yeah, it's about time Dead & Co. announced their last tour because, let's be honest, those guys are old. Those guys are really old. It's incredible that they've given us these last couple of years. It's insane. And they were having some medical problems with some of the members of the band. And that's not fair for everybody to suffer or to miss out. So maybe John will continue to carry the torch in future summer tours. He seems like he has a good time playing this music. I don't know whether or not he wants to break away. He may be burnt out. So, what's that? Don't be sad that it's over. Just be happy you had it at all, right? Or whatever the Dr. Seuss quote is. So let's get back to making the changes, okay? Well, I've got kinfolk, so that's. So we got a major third, a root, a 6, and a 5. We can add in that little flat 3 in there. Looking forward to Tuesday. Yeah, me too, man. That's going to be good, Chris. So, flat third, slide in, right? 1, 2, 3. Right? So, that's the first change. 1 to 5. Right? Now we've got that really cool B7 chord. 1, Okay, and that's a secondary dominant. That has no business in the G major, right? That's the 5 of where we're going. That's what's so cool about this. So this gives us a really cool opportunity to use the harmonic minor from the key that we're going to. So over top of the B chord, we can do this substitution. Rather than playing B like what we would normally do, sorry, right? We would normally play B mixolydian over a flat 7 chord like that. But instead, what we're going to do is a Phrygian dominant, B, or E harmonic minor. They're the same. They're enharmonic equivalents, kind of like A minor and C major are the same notes. Leads to the E minor chord. So watch that. Okay, sorry, the loop is long, so we're going to have to talk about this. So I hope you're playing along at home. So that's cool. And then watch. So the changes, they come fast, man. You said in the past video that harmonic minor was invented for a specific purpose. Yes, in fact, it wasn't invented so much as I think people realized that it sounded better than just playing straight. But when you look at it, if we were going from the 5, the cool thing about dominant chords is they give you the permission to basically change from a major. We could go from right, B7 to, so assuming the B is the dominant chord of E, right? We could then go also from, we're allowed to change the tonality of that E chord. Once we go, even for a brief second, to the 5-7 chord, we can now go back and change to E minor from E major. So that's a very cool, it's a common trick that's used where the people will go, then back, you know, like, and now all of a sudden there's new chords that are available to you that stem from that, okay? So the cool thing is there's dominant chords with minor ones and dominant chords with major ones all throughout classical music. And that makes a lot of sense for the major chord because the 7th degree of the major scale makes sense. But sometimes when we're playing minor, we have a minor 5. So that would sound weird over top of that. So we have minor scales. So if we were doing something like that, something, you know, like something like that progression, right? We would use regular E minor with a flat 7, that D. But what do we do when we're playing an E minor chord coming out of a B7 with that D sharp in it? Well, when we have that sound, okay, over top of the B chord, we can cheat and kind of elude. Of course, you can seal for that progression. Anyway, so what is that? That's just E minor, but rather than using the D, we're using D sharp. So that sounds really good over top of bum, boom. bum over top of bum, bum. It sounds really awful. That would never work, right? We're getting this. Okay, you're getting the minor third and the major third all at once, and unless you're Jimi Hendrix, they certainly weren't doing that in classical music, not until Wagner came around, okay? So the sharp 9 chord didn't really happen until, you know, later. Anyway, that's why harmonic minor makes so much sense. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a B7 chord going to an E minor chord. So that's why we can use that. I'm going to keep using that little lick. So we'll use it there again. 1, 2, 3. Well, I've got to. Right? And then. Right, so over top of the B7 chord, we play that. Now, one way we could look at it is, yeah, it's E minor harmonic minor, right? So, but another way we can look at it is because we're playing it over top of that B chord, maybe we define it by the B chord's terms, okay? So it's a B7 chord. So major third, root, flat 7, and 5. But rather than having a major second and a sixth like we would if we were playing Mixolydian, we just flatten the 2 and the 6, and we end up with. So it changes from to the C instead of the C sharp, the G instead of the G sharp. Yeah, that's not going to sound good over top of this E minor chord with a C in it, right? So you wouldn't want to be playing Dorian over top of Aeolian. It doesn't work. That's why we need to kind of get your minors straight. So over top of that, well, I've got. I don't really play jazz, but this is about as jazzy as things get for me. It's a lot of great changes. So we've already done that B7 to E minor, okay? And that leads from our E minor to a nice A7 sound. So funny thing is we play that harmonic minor sound. Yeah, sure, I do have a question we have a chance might be relevant to this conference. Yeah, come on, hit it. It's okay, Alex, hit it. So we can pause on this. I have a huge lesson that walks through an entire solo of this. If you want to find it on my channel, it's under Kinfolks, there's a playlist called Making the Changes. So you'll find it in there. We can get back to this on another day. It's just a good starting point because a lot of players, they don't know how to do this kind of stuff. So I thought maybe I would share a little bit. What's up, Alex? What do you got? Typing? Okay, well, we'll wait. So the idea that we're playing from an E minor into that A7, that's pretty easy because E minor, we're playing over an E Dorian at that point. And that turns into A7. Up to D. All right, here we go. I play the blues, but I have no knowledge of music theory. always been fascinated with the diminished sound. Well, there's nothing wrong with the diminished sound. That's not really a question, though. That is a statement. Then that's just me being a pedantic English major. But let's talk about the diminished sound, okay? We can utilize diminished in multiple ways. One thing we can do is we can play it over a diminished chord. The other thing, yeah, so diminished chords used to build tension up to the 1. Absolutely. So let's take a look at that, right? So if we're doing something like, let's use this song we were doing, okay? There's one spot where I go, well, there's a little lump of sugar up in Asheville. Okay, then, with the sweetest little southern drawl, I'm gonna buy that girl a wedding ring. That's your diminished chord right there. Buy that girl a wedding ring, get us tickets on a New River train, get my... So these are kind of the lowest notes of those chords. So we're doing C, C sharp, G with a D in the bass, E7, A7, D7, G. Okay, so that builds tension. But this right here is actually a substitute for a typical chord change that we've heard. Gonna buy that girl a wedding ring. But the note choice up at the top, if we want that nice, we want that blue note, right? We want that flat third over the G. So we get that diminished sound out of that chord in a way that we can't really get out of an A7. Okay, they're similar though. When you look at it, look at the chord here. We've got the C sharp, the G, and the A. The E. Those three notes are the same if we play, this is an inversion of an A7 chord. Okay, that's an A7. All we have to do is take this A note and bring it up to B flat. Now we have a diminished chord. Now, what's a diminished chord made out of? It's made out of flat fifths and minor thirds, right? There's our tritone, minor thirds. They're all a minor third from each other, but they're not always presented in like that order. If we were to voice it like that, we'd end up with this kind of look. Minor third, minor third, minor third, and then we get that one there, right? So okay, and at that point, we've gone from C sharp, E, G, B flat, and then C sharp again, okay? So those are all minor thirds apart. Now, the cool thing about a diminished chord is because it's symmetrical, everything's a minor third apart. The chord itself inverts every 3 frets. All right, so these are all voicings of the same chord. However, they can be used in different functions, and the interesting thing is that they're kind of, because they're all potentially the root, the third, the fifth, or the flat 7. Okay, where does the diminished chord work in a 1-4-5? Usually it works to connect the dots between going to, like that, up to, chromatically up to, either from the 4 to the 5 chord, or from the 4 raised 4 back to the 1 chord. So let's take a G blues, okay? Okay, now we're going to C. There it is, and now back to G. that's how I use it in the blues, is usually as a way of suspending the 4 before we go back to the root, okay, before we go back to the 1, or in the turnaround. Bum, ba, dun, 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 dun. And in this case, it kind of is functioning like a dominant second, like, okay, we're doing like a 2 chord with a, so because if you look at it again, the A7, that's this, with a 3rd in the bass, it's only, so, that. So I'll use it on my way up to the 5 chord and on my way up back to the root. Like that, okay? You can also practice that as a sub for the 6 chord, right? Instead of going, or minor rather, you can go, that's a diminished voicing. So if you look at that, right, you're going to see it has the 3rd of an E, the 5th of an E, the flat 7 of an E, okay, but it's got an F. So it's kind of like this fucked up E7 that functions as 1, 6, like a dominant 6, 1, 6, 2, 5. Well, sometimes you'll hear instead of, but popping in to say you're the best, your lessons improve my playing. Hey, thank you, dude. I appreciate that very much. Thank you, and I am happy and proud and honored, frankly, to be on anybody's musical journey. I do appreciate the feedback and the sponsorship. Some folks, you know, just say hi on the comments, and that's terrific. Some people have decided to bring me in as their teacher and help guide them more personally. I actually had a guy who I'm supposed to meet with at 4 o'clock. He had to cancel, so I figured I'd come on and do some office hours for you guys. But I really do appreciate the comment there, Sponge. All right, so that's kind of a, what looper do I use to slow down songs when learning? Okay, the looper that I use when I make songs is included in the Kemper, and I love the Kemper, but the looper in it is poop. It's no, the looper is a pooper. The device that I use, and this is going to where things get a little, you know, like, is this the Vidami? All right, I play with the old school one with the chord. They sponsored me a little while back, and they sent me this, and I wanted one before they reached out to me. Great company, amazing people, terrific product. Works. It really works. This thing loops video. So you find a video of any song, which most of them have been uploaded. You can sample a section of it and play it back and back and back, and keep slowing it down using the transport functions that are already embedded in the YouTube platform. Okay, so the Vidami rules. Yay, Jack, you're great. Thanks. Very articulate in both your playing and your teaching. I try to be. It's very difficult to listen to some. Thanks. I'm super happy that you guys are liking the Vidami. I think that being a good teacher is not natural for some of the best players that are out there. There's some players that are much better players than I am, that I feel like when I've tried to watch and learn from them, they are confusing. So I try to streamline and simplify as best I can. But then again, I am a long-winded Irishman who's getting long in the tooth, so you'll have to indulge a few of my my long-winded metaphors and things from time to time. So maybe we can get back to kinfolks, because I have another 20 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, I got to keep this office hours to actually an office hour today. So so we played through the 1 to 5 change, then we played from the major 3 into the minor 6, then a 2 dominant into the 5. Now I do this little trick over top of the 2 dominant that I think you guys will get a real kick out of. Okay, if we start from the A chord into this D, do I like the band? There are elements of the band's music that I like. There are other elements of it that I don't like. It does not the band does not have guitar playing, in my opinion, but it has great musicianship and songwriting, and Lee Helm is a fucking amazing singer and drummer. I really think he is a funky guy, or was. I think he died, right? I can't remember. Okay, but let's talk about this. Ophelia is a great tune. I really like that song. Ophelia blows me away. All right, as does The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, but that's a Joan Baez song, I think, right? But their rendering of it is pretty dope. Anyway, so we're playing from now a dominant 2 chord into the 5, headed back to the 1. So it's a 2-5-1, but a dominant 2, not a minor 2. Okay. And if you guys don't get that, I can slow it down and break it down for you. But really, it's an A7 going to a D7 back to a G. Okay, it's kind of a 6th sound. So over top of the A chord, we're going to play, kind of a extended mixolydian with a chromatic in it. Okay, we're not only doing the chromatic between the 2 and the root, we're going to do it between the root and the flat 7, because that keys us up to be able to go into the 3rd of this 5 chord that we're about to play into the D7. But over top of the D7, you're going to see me do this little move. Okay, so over top of the D7 sound, we're going to hear this. Okay, and that's kind of a diminished sound too. Okay, and that sounds really nice. We can use the diminished arpeggio over a dominant 7 chord because they're kissing cousins. These guys are, that's the first 4 notes. So really all we're doing is going, I'm just going to add that note up here, and all of a sudden it sounds like a groovy extension. Okay, so watch. Let's watch how that works out. Like I said, I'm not a bebop guy. Like there's cats like, I'm sure like Matt Ministeri could chew me up on a tune like this, but he's a beautiful cat, and I've taken a couple of lessons from him. And man, if you haven't checked out Matt, he's the real deal. But this is the kind of stuff that I aspire to playing better every day. So I try to teach this as often as I can because every time I teach it, I learn a little something. But that D lick is kind of hip. Okay, so over top of the A chord, into the D chord. Okay, that diminished sound. So with that note there, same there. So the way we build that is by visualizing the D7 triad. Okay. With the index finger. Okay. And then we're going to start with the middle. And then we're going to go index plus 3, index plus 3, index plus 3, index plus 3. So we get that diminished note, that flat 2, in 2 octaves, okay? So diminished note, and then we come back into our G chord. Into C major. C sharp diminished. Then G7, G to E7. So best move I like is the twin Parker enclosures trick. That little lick. So watch how that works out. We're going to go from the 5 of the G chord, and then we're going to go from the 5 of the E chord, and then end with a little E7, E9 chord. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how I kind of look at that last little bit where we're going. So that's gonna get us tickets on a New River train. That's an A13 with a 9. Up again to a D13 with a 9. And then, right? So what you want to do with those 1, 6, 2, 5s is literally set up a slow loop, you know, and just go. Right? That kind of takes forever. I don't play jazz, and there's a reason. It's too damn hard for me. I'm not smart enough to figure it out in a minute. I also don't like the sound of it personally, so I don't really listen to it too much, so I don't do it very well. All right, but this is about as close as I'll come to playing it as this Texas swing. So if you haven't checked this tune out, it's on my page under the Making the Changes side of things, and I must say that it's a great workout for learning how to navigate some of the more ambitious changes that exist in Western music, and then once you get this under control, when you go back to playing just like some basic songs, well, not basic. When you go back to playing other songs, they seem quite basic because they don't have all these changes. This is basically every change you're ever going to encounter, and all rolled up into one thing. So it's a very good song for students to practice. So I guess that wraps up that part. If anybody has any questions, I don't think anybody's watching right now, but I probably alienated all you deadheads by playing gypsy and American Texas swing stuff. But it's definitely a cool style to get under your belt, and I wanted to share a little bit with you guys. So if you guys haven't listened to Django Reinhardt or Bob Willis and the Texas Playboys and some of this kind of other musics other than Grateful Dead, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. You could really broaden your palette. This was cool. I'm super glad you enjoyed that. Did you have any questions, Mr. CrossFit Woburn? That's a great handle. So as far as gear and everything like that, today I'm playing my old 335. This was my main guitar for many years. It's a 1966 335. It's profiled in one of my videos alongside of my other 335 from the same year. I got a backup model back when I was gigging out more often. And some friends of mine in the New York area own some pretty sweet 335, so I got together 66 or 67 345, and then a 61 ES335 with PAFs, and a 58 335 and a 58 355, which has the ebony board and the larger mother of pearl blocks and the gold hardware. Check out that video if you want to hear what a great old 335 sounds like. I think this is a great sounding guitar, don't get me wrong. But next to that, yeah, I've definitely tried beat benders a lot. I've been taunting my guitar tech to build me one with the more like the pedals rather than the pulley bender thing. But I do like that, but I just, the truth is, I got my hands full, and I don't really dig tellies too much, to be honest. So anyway, you should definitely check out that 335 video if you dig it. Yeah, I mean, they can't, the 330, the beat bender thing on a telly, that's a killer thing if you know how to, not just be. I love pedal steel. That's probably my favorite sound that I've ever heard recorded, is just properly played pedal steel. Not necessarily super country, even just nice ambient sounding stuff. There's a guy, I think it's called like Ambient Excursions. If you look it up, the fabulous record for contemplative driving, done with the pedal steel player, and I forget the cat's name, but it's wonderful music, and I love the sound of great steel guitar. So I do a lot of bending into chords and chord tones and things like that, and that all stems from my appreciation of that sound. So it would make sense that I would have a beat bender, but my guy hasn't done it yet. So until then, I'll have to just try my best to do like the Matt Ray thing and just learn how to do it. Thank you very much for asking, though. If anybody has any questions, great. If not, I got about 6 more minutes until I got to sign on to my 5 o'clock lesson. I think the only clip I've seen of Jerry playing a telly was when he was playing with the New Riders. That makes sense. I mean, he didn't really do. I don't think I've ever heard him play a telly. I think there's a telly on, the recorded version of what do you call it, Cumberland. But I don't think he's actually playing the. I don't think he's playing that on the recording. I think that's one of the other guys. I can't. And also, I think telly is also the main guitar on the. On Box of Rain off of American Beauty. So, but again, I don't think he's playing that. I think there's one of their friends sat in and did that. So because I think Garcia's playing piano on Box of Rain, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, this sound of the Texas swing with all those different chords, and in particular emphasizing that that sixth voicing over the tonic was a real eye opener for me, because you realize that that's why you need to have your major pentatonic chops together, and then by mixing a little blue note into that. Occasional 4 and flat 7 or major 7, right? We could do. And end up into our 5 chord like that. It's nice, and we can use all the notes throughout that. But generally speaking, I don't like the sound of playing a flat 7 over that 1/6, the 6 chord as the root. That F, it's better when it gets held out. When making the changes to a major chord, does it make sense to slide up into the 5th like you would the 3rd? Yeah, it can, but the way you can definitely do that. So if we did, let's say, like that, sure, we can do that. Watch, let's, rather than go, let's do it off the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sound good, but generally speaking, I feel like I'm forcing it a little bit right there. That isn't the sound I hear in my head so much, but I mean, sure, a little bit, but more like I would more likely hear that kind of sound. So if you want to learn how to do some of these tricks and stuff like that, there's also another one I have called a lesson called, I think it's Descending Dominance, which utilizes this E chord shape that shifts into an A chord shape. It switches into another D7 shape that goes into a G chord shape. And this comes in very handy for playing over top of like American classic barn burner kind of things. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where you're playing over descending. That kind of thing where you're doing, kind of like Sweet Georgia Brown or something. So over top of that, we would go D7, G7. E7, A7, D7, and then G. Okay, that kind of thing. So you might want to check that out if you don't know some of these. Those kind of little inversions of 7th chords. That's the third, the fifth, and the flat 7 of an E7 chord. The flat 7 root and third of an A7. The third, fifth, and flat 7 of a D7 chord, and then we slide back here and we're hearing the G. So that's going to be its flat 7, the F. The G is the, the G is going to be the root, and then you're going to have the third there. Okay, and now we can bring that whole thing down chromatically. And that's the way we get those. So I've got to jump here. It's 5 o'clock. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. If you want to take lessons from me, obviously you can always reach out to me and schedule 1, 2 packs of 10, whatever you want to do. Jack_divine@hotmail.com is little old me. Or you can just say hey and toss me a thumbs up down in the comments. I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed and you happen to have stumbled upon this episode of Office Hours, hey, do me a favor. Maybe you subscribe. Other than that, I'll see you later, everybody. Okay. Take care. Bye bye. Get out of here. How do I stop?